Welcome back to the channel. I'm super glad to have you here because I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while. Coming on screen now is a little engine that my son refers to affectionately as Pistons. And this guy is the first engine that I've kind of tinkered with. So I want to give you a bit of a backstory on this and how this all kind of ties in with what we're doing and how I got here. So if you haven't been here before, not only am I a bit of a train fanatic, and that's a bit of a hazard of being a dad right now, I got my start with Nerf and laser tag, at least my start with making videos on YouTube. And a lot of what I was doing and what I loved to really do was to modify stuff. And one of the things that I was kind of known for was taking laser tag internals and recasing them into something cooler. In those cases, they were typically Nerf blasters that had busted internals or things like that, and I wanted a more ergonomic and just aesthetically pleasing shell to put these laser tag guts into. And so I did a lot of those, and they were really fun to make, and if you'd like to see them, they're linked, I'm sure, somewhere up here. But anyway, this guy is kind of a laser tag recasing because this is an engine that should have been conventional, meaning that it ran on transformer power. So you would take a transformer with variable voltage and increase and decrease that voltage to control how fast or slow the engine goes. It's a pretty basic way of controlling a model train. But it's a little bit harder to do that when you're running multiple engines, and it's just a lot more fun for kids to use a remote. And in this case, the kid is my son, and he loves using Lionchief controls because they're simple. You have a throttle here, then you have some buttons down here for sound effects and other stuff. So he wanted this engine to work like that. And so did I, because this is admittedly a little bit cooler looking engine than some of the more modern ones that we've seen. Bit of history lore, Union Pacific only fielded one 080 switcher or 080 switcher style engine in their entire roster. And we live in Nebraska, and that single engine was rostered here in Nebraska. And it would just so happen that the number for that 080 switcher was 4500, just like you see here. Now, this engine design isn't exactly what that engine would have been. There's actually a picture I've got of what it should have looked like and what ours is. But it's close enough. And given that I'm a bit of a historical buff, yeah, it was a cool thing to make 4500 a functional switcher for our Secondhand Overland railroad here. Also, regardless of the historical accuracy or not, my son loves watching all the wheels and pistons and rods and all that stuff go around on the side of this engine. It's probably still one of his favorites to watch. Even stuff like the Challenger and Big Boy that have more going on, just watching these little rods and cranks spinning around is really fun, and I kind of like it too. I also like it because on the front and on the side of the tender, you got these nice Union Pacific Overland route logos, and typically you don't see that on these engines, so I don't really care if it's not prototypical or not, it's just cool to have on here. So how did I do it? Well, I used everything that I'd learned from switching out internals and laser tag blasters to Nerf blasters, and I found an engine here that I could sacrifice for the greater good. You see, this black piece of tape is covering up, I probably shouldn't take it off. This is covering up a Pennsylvania logo. Yes, this guy used to be a Pennsylvania Flyer. So on the one hand, we did have to sacrifice an engine to make another. But on the other hand, it means that not only do we get Lionchief control with this looking engine, but there's a lot more detail on this guy as well. There's metal handbars on the side of the boiler that are just molded in on newer ones. There's, again, all these details here on the side of the engine. Even the tender has a few more details on it that the newer ones that are Lionchief kind of lack. So I almost kind of prefer the fact that we've managed to make this engine Lionchief compatible because we'll use it more often now.
Inspector here. You are cleared outbound. Over. Thank you much. Clear outbound. Out.
It's definitely not from Nebraska. But the key thing that made this project a little simpler than most is both the Lionchief model that I was gutting essentially and this have the same basic shell. They all have the same parts. In fact, I was able to completely lift the tender piece off and just bolt on the Union Pacific one. Things got a little bit more interesting with wiring for things like the headlight and especially the section that connects the engine to the tender. And that was something that I had to revisit a couple times because the wires actually broke from moving and pivoting too much at that point. I didn't give them enough slack and they were essentially pulling themselves apart slowly. But 4500 is working great. Pistons is a beloved member of the Secondhand Overland Union Pacific family, and it's been a ton of fun. So if you'd like to see more, stay tuned. I'd like to do a video that covers the whole roster of UP engines that we have here on our line. So let me know if that's something you'd like to see. We'll see you guys later.
What are you doing?
He's sneaking out the window. I closed the window.
Oof, don't hurt him.